Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show. Ed Wonke, good morning.
Good morning.
I thought of you this morning. I got wind of a valuation firm doing opinions of value signed off by an ASA starting at $795. Whoa, somebody is swimming to the bottom of the pool.
Well, either that or they're using computer generated.
Yeah, it's got to be computer generated. I mean, at that price, there's no the profit. That thing had better be at 85% margin, and push button. So, and they've been doing it for years. Godspeed.
That's great. I mean, the problem is that people start to rely on something like that without looking at the background of what's going on to it. And if you don't get a comprehensive analysis, I mean, the one I'm doing right now, I mean, I agree it's a little harder because it's computer software. But I will tell you, George, I mean, I've spent probably 20 hours on research already in competitions to look at the investment buildup to get these software packages into the marketplace.
And that's what people don't, what they really hang their hat on is DCF. I mean, they talk about market comps and it's a good looking, it feels like a meaty report. Mr. Frasco, good morning.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a meaty report, but I think this is an instance of you get what you pay for. I mean,
yeah.
There's everything good about a Honda Fit or a Toyota Yaris, right? It is a car. It will do basically everything you need it to do. It's not.
It's transportation. Don't look at
exactly. So, and I don't mean to impugn. I don't know these people. I know nothing about them. They may be doing a bang up job. I am not. I would ask you to opine about the opinion of value, but that's in the why bother.
Sure. Exactly.
But your point's a good one. You invest in a lot of data. You bring countless years, right? Countless years of experience. By the way, Ed, I met with Todd yesterday again.
Oh, did you?
He and I are going to get together when he returns to his office.
I go say, I think today he's flying.
He is flying.
I've been talking to my grandson because he's in charge of coordination.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, Joseph, great to see you, man. How's life treating you?
Life is always good, as I say to you guys every time. A day above ground is a great day.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, we've been buried in water up by us. We've had like 5 days between mows on the golf course because we had so much rain they couldn't put equipment on it, and we had 7.5 inches in 10 days.
Wow!
And then couple that with some brisk winds that added a lot of crap coming out of the trees onto the golf course and everything.
And Ohio's trying to be in the tropics.
It's been overwhelming. I tried to play Sunday morning, and I lost 3 golf balls that landed in the middle of the fairway, but the grass was so high and it was plugging. I found 8 balls, but I lost 3.
Hey, but never quarrel with a prophet, my old man used to say.
Yeah, well, the key is you only see about 1/4 of an inch of diameter up at the top. Because if you don't see the white, you don't notice it because it's stuck in the high grass. They haven't mowed it.
That's funny. Eric, good morning, man.
Morning. How's everybody doing this morning?
Great.
All good.
I'd said that we would have the level 1 and level 2 reports out yesterday. I missed by a day. The guys are wrapping it up right now. The reports look great. I could give you a teaser.
Well, you showed them. Did they change materially since you showed it to us on the last Coffee Klatsch?
Not materially.
Okay.
No. No, what we're doing is going through and making sure that they're, that they don't match, right?
It's quality control. You're checking the details.
Exactly.
I get
Like
it.
are the fonts, on this page you use these words and they're in green, no bold, and on the same, the report at level 2, they're in dark blue, bold, that kind of widows.
We've all
It's
been
all
there.
widows and orphans.
It's normal.
John Carter.
It's normal quality control stuff, George, and we get it.
Exactly.
I don't, if they're going to be out in the next 24 hours, I don't know that showing them here. Let's look at them next week when they're out and show them to everybody.
There's no need to rush.
Yeah, 100%. And there's so much good stuff coming. By the way, for those of you who have voted on the new C3D badge, I actually got a couple of notes with some helpful comments. We'll put that out for you guys here.
Are you sure you spelled it correctly?
It's a hard one. Yeah, well, we have retained a digital marketing agency.
Nice.
I think that's the best description. We're going to go through everything. We have 3 public assets. We have our corporate website. We have strategiccapacity.org with a hyphen. And we have the georgesandman.com. And, I find it embarrassing, but I'm being told, after hearing for a few years that we need to get the George Sandman, it gives me hives. Anyway, this is about you guys. Anyway, we're going to make it all, bring consistency across the websites, clarity, etc. And I'm psyched. I'm very psyched.
And Paul said he is very excited to hear that.
Hey, Paul, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Paul gets the early bird gets the worm prize. Tip Quilter, as I live and breathe. Listen, guys.
Paul, I'm a little disappointed because I want to see the red jacket every time. When we go
right there, be careful.
When we see the Masters, we always get to see the green jacket.
Yeah,
there it is.
Earn the red jacket, and MIT isn't just giving those away. Mr. Rohde, Mr. Quilter, guys. One thing, and then I'm actually going to ask Joseph has offered to share something to share his thoughts on a topic that's critically important and super timely given what we're doing. We are down to the last few seats at the regular rate for the summit.
Does that mean the extortionist rate is on deck?
Then we go to extortion. Absolutely. Are you kidding?
Outstanding. I'm sorry, confiscatory.
Confiscatory. One of my favorite words. Yeah, they charge a confiscatory. Mitch, Sky, or Howard, Mitch, I will get you that agenda. So Mitch had asked about the agenda. Mitch, I'll get that to you today. We have it. I'm just going to put it in a more digestible form. Obviously we have it. We've been working really hard. You guys we're now looking at panelists and facilitators, and there are some people who were at the summit last year who haven't yet signed up. That's my problem, not yours. But if you know anyone who would be interested in being in the room, it's going to be fantastic, guys. Not only is the agenda, I think, really strong, and Eric, thank you for helping lead the committee. They gave us the ideas that became the agenda. The talent in the room is insane, and you're going to walk away with a book with a meaty playbook of resources that will be folded into C3D, but think of these as C3D level resources. So it's we want to make sure you're getting a lot of value for your investment of time and treasure, and that I work very hard to. It's not me, right? It's you guys. You guys are the talent. We do a great job of not disappointing each other. So with that, Joseph, man, thank you very, very much. In fact, we're busy updating the UI and the UX so that you have the ability, a deeper ability to hold your clients, or for your clients to hold themselves accountable to increasing strategic capacity, right? With all the implications that are there. And part of that work involves making sure that there are the resources, right? The time, the talent, the money. And if we think in terms of the integrated strategic capacity doctrine and we focus on the human side of that equation, the CEO, the senior leadership team, and the advisory team are all aligned and designed to support that effort, right? So that's where Clarity, the software, our technology is evolving rapidly. You'll see Rev 2.0 here quickly. And Joseph shot me a note. Thank you very much. Very generous, and I'm super grateful. Joseph has done a lot of work on this exact issue. And so, Joseph, with that, I hope I introduced it properly. I would love. I'm grateful that you're willing to share the work you've been doing on this topic.
Let's see if I can share my screen. You just let me know if you guys can see the
Closing the execution gap. We've got it.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So this is obviously a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Part of the evolution I think that all of us go through is we brush up on our skills within Growth Drive for strategic capacity. We understand exactly what it takes to take a company from point A to point B. I will make the assumption that the vast majority of us are dealing with companies typically in the $5 to $50 million range, where they're going from client-centric to, from owner-centric to a professional corporation. And what that typically means is that you can have the best plan in the world, and the management may even have the desire to be accountable, but the fact of the matter is they don't have the resources to execute. They just simply don't. Very often we come across companies that the sister-in-law is the bookkeeper, and she's, the financial advisor within the company, and doesn't necessarily have the capacity to, produce financials that are really needed by the company, and so on and so forth. So what I personally found in my experience is that you've got a company that has a desire, it has an advisor like you to be able to identify what needs to be done, but there's a gap. The gap is between creating strategy and accountability to going into execution, right? So the idea is you can identify the strategy, and what ends up happening is it fails, or you're not able to execute on it, right? And even though you as the advisor have the right answer, the plan will still fail because the client doesn't have the execution capacity, right? I mean, I would pose to the group, and I'd love to hear just a little bit of feedback, how often this happens within, your client and your client base. In other words, you put together the plan, they get all excited, they start the initiative, and then all of a sudden it stalls. And it doesn't stall because of anything that you've done, but it stalls because they don't have the ability to execute. Anybody care to share? I want to make it interactive.
I see heads nodding up and down. Yeah.
I say I'll jump in, Joseph, and say, working on a project last year where we had the lower level people were very willing and jumped in and wanted to execute. And the owner decided that they wanted to be in charge of every decision by the lower level. And so they get frustrated because they thought they were going to be in charge of what they were doing. And they were building up the management of their teams, accepting the fact that they were going to run it. And after 6 months, the owner said, no, you're not going to do that. So yes, it's a challenge.
Perfect. So I can share. I can.
Joseph.
Yeah,
I would
yes,
add
please.
that this is often the situation before we come in. It's what they've been doing. They've had an execution gap. Maybe they've had strategies in the past and have executed them poorly or weakly, and that's a big part of why we're there. The challenge when we come is not helping them with clarity. That gives us a big head start, but there's still an execution gap that we have to navigate. And I think that's where the art of being the human in the loop and working around those, whether they're the commandeering owners or the advocating owners and the gaps in the senior leadership team, that's a big part of where the art comes in. It's still a gap that we have to navigate. So I'm eager to see what you've got here.
Yeah, for sure. I would add one more thing. It's very interesting. There was a poll done by business owners that have engaged with consulting firms like McKinsey and Bain and so on that are on the, let's call it the lower level, lower middle markets. The response is they hate consultants. They come in, they produce these very expensive reports. They look at it, they read it, and it goes on the shelf, and that doesn't get used. And in fact, I think the problem is extending exactly to the discussion over here, that they find that these advisory reports, these consulting reports that are produced, they're not executable. They look at it and say, who's going to do this? Who's going to manage? Who's going to run this process?
Joseph,
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mitch.
Thanks, sir. So what the feedback I get, and mine is very limited from the 2 clients I have so far, they don't even fit, but this has been more on the consultant side, that the biggest complaint I hear is the consultants come in and they really don't understand their company. Like people come in and they say, hey, if I could fix this in 2 minutes if somebody gave me the authority, but that's how do you get that credibility? I know all about the discovery and the questions and the things we do at Growth Drive, and I do know that that's critical. But even with all that, I still kind of don't believe you, and what do you do to at least make that less of a problem?
I have an answer for that, but I think I'll answer it a little bit later on. It'll become self-evident. Part of it is in understanding. I'll just kind of briefly explain to you that I think part of the understanding is that they understand. I should say part of the answer is that there's an understanding of what is your role and job and function within this process, and who's responsible for what. So again, part is coming back to accountability. If you, Mitch, have to be responsible for the entire process, then absolutely there's going to be a question of whether or not you have the capacity to do it. On the other hand, if you're bringing the appropriate people on board who all have the specific skills in the areas that need to be addressed, then I think it becomes less of an issue. Let them, you're kind of the orchestra. I always say when people ask me what is it I do, I always tell them I'm the architect and general contractor of the process. I'm not necessarily the one that is going to solve all the problems for you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mitch, what is it when you say they don't believe as an owner? Is it what we're presenting? Is it
Not the owner, Larry. It's not the owner. It's the credibility of the senior leaders, the people right below the owner, or even the people. It's credibility. Sure, I'm smart. I know what I'm doing and what I do, but how do I know this business? We make widgets, we make greeting cards, we pack boxes, whatever their company is. They feel like that we don't know them well enough to give them guidance on how to build value in their business. Not that we don't know our business. The owner I've already sold in my scenario. It's credibility with the people who have to implement, so you don't get anybody on your team. You get that internal pushback. Because Joseph, I think you're right on the CEO level. The people, the decision maker for us, that I haven't seen is that's either you've sold them or you've convinced them or not. Does that answer your question, Larry, where I was coming from?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what, who, like you said, who's not buying in to the change process, why they're not buying in, and what that gap is, to Joseph's point.
Yeah, that's where it is. I think it's a level, maybe 2, but definitely a level below the CEO. Key people, but a level below, not the people who are hiring us.
Right. So
Joseph, go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I would just say that we see, I mean, the chart is self-evident. I don't need to, to go through it and walk through it. But the idea is that you've got actually deficiencies and capacity issues on both sides of the of the coin, right? From the client side, it could be that management doesn't have the depth, or didn't even have the financial resource, or even the expertise to know, right? Very often, kind of one of the things that we laugh about with AI is everyone's saying AI is now going to create all these business consultants. Well, the truth of the matter is something, if AI produces something, most people have no clue whether or not it's produced something that is actually factually correct, or not correct. You'll know it because you've been through the process. They're not going to know. So it could be also the lack of expertise. Sometimes the owners will respond in a certain way, or management will respond in a certain way because they don't want to look stupid, because they don't really understand. So there's all kinds of reasons why on the client side you've got deficiencies, but also on the advisor side. I mean, the reality is most of us come from a very narrow type of business. We usually coming from a specific background, and our Rolodex may not have the ability to cover all the bases that exist within the process. Very often, even if one of the big pain points, obviously, is they need access to capital. That's usually not the first thing, but if they need access to capital, who do you turn to? What's the right one? How do you help them go down that process? So I mean, this is something that I've actually dealt with for quite a long time. I mean, it was about 7 or 8 years, really building out my Rolodex. But the process that I use internally over here, right, is number one, you would use the growth drive to identify exactly what is required. What's the process? What's the gap in the strategic capacity? What is it the client needs to do? Does he need to fix his financials? Does he need to hire someone, the right person, on the marketing team? Does they need to document certain systems, right? Then you have to take a look at an examination in terms of the capabilities, not only that are required in order to achieve the steps within the strategic capacity process, but also what are the resources that they have internally in the company. And to the extent that they don't have it, you really have to put a team around them to be able to execute. Without it, that's kind of where the plan fails. And I would say the following, that to the extent that you can provide choices to the owners in filling those gaps without necessarily making a decision for them. Because I will tell you, me personally, I don't make that choice. What I do is, for example, if they need, we talk about, for example, just on the financial side, because that very often, let's assume they need a 13-week cash flow. I don't choose. What I do is I find three, based on what their preferences are. They want someone locally. They want someone, across the country. They want someone who knows them at all, someone in their community. I have to have someone like, whatever it is. They give you the parameters in terms of what they're comfortable working with. I'll bring them 2 or 3 people. Say, these are 3 people that are qualified. Interview them. You make the decision. As I've said 100 times before on this, on these calls, this is about relationships, and relationships about chemistry. And sometimes it works. It's not only about skill set. That's assumed that they're going to have the skill set when they're going to do a job for you. But at the same time, you want to make sure the chemistry is there. So they're going to pick and choose the people they want to work with. And that kind of, Mitch, that deals with what you're talking about. They're not going to feel uncomfortable because they're the ones making the choice. They're making the choice of who they're working with. So now it's their decision. They own it. And you do that with the 2 or 3 people. Sometimes it can come in as an employee. Sometimes it can come as a fractional executive. Sometimes it could just even be project based. I mean, I've had, even on the finance side, someone come in and say, look, I need someone to clean up my books. I'm looking to, to borrow money from a bank. I haven't done it before. I'm not looking for a long-term, fractional CFO or a long-term bookie, but I just want someone to come clean up. And they'll come in and say, okay, great. Here's a project that gets done, and we'll take it to the next step. So the idea really is that your job is to not only identify, the opportunity need, but actually to carry it across and make sure that the appropriate team is built around it so that they have the ability to execute. At the end of the day, our success and our reputation isn't based on how smart we are and how much we're able to express to them and share to them what needs to be done in the business, but in their ability to achieve their goals. And if we are outcome focused, we really have to be focused on making sure that they have the team that's wrapped around it in order to be able to do it. Obviously, what does it do? You become actually far more important in the process. I would say if the word is trusted advisor, you're ranking with the client goes up, by orders of magnitude, because they understand that you're there to help them to the extent that they want you to participate, and you're not the one you're the one helping to make sure the job gets done without taking away their ownership of control of the process. I think that typically is the concern that most of them have when they would go to, let's say, a firm. In other words, I might go to Eric and hire Oak Hill business partners, and he's got an internal team, someone in finance, someone in marketing, someone this, that. And now they're saying, oh, I have to make an all or nothing decision to work with Eric, and I'm putting everything in his lap. If he doesn't execute, I'm really SOL. Right?
And it also makes the buying decision so much more complicated for the client.
Correct. And in this format, it's not like that. You're just facilitating access to the support staff or staff, whatever that's necessary, and accountability to make sure that the client is able to execute. All right. So here's a simple example. It's a real example, but not a real example, just so you understand. But you had an e-commerce company over here. Obviously, one of the issues that needed to be done was clean up the financial controls. They had no visibility in actual SKU profitability, in terms of how their ad spend were. And you get access to growth capital like everybody else. They have inventory. They have SKUs that do really well, but they've got messed up financials. So they don't really know where they're buying inventory for, and they need access to more capital. And obviously, at some point, the goal is to sell the company. And the idea was to put an execution team around this. So they put together a fractional CFO to be able to do some things, bring in a short-term e-commerce operator, capital partner to be able to supply the capital, and obviously an M&A advisor. So helping them pull this team around them and be able to help them do the execution side from whatever it is that you generate in your reports, to be able, level 1 or level 2 in clarity, to be able to take them to the point that they need to get to. Right? You don't need to be all those roles. You just need to be the person that can assemble the team. Right? So I don't think I need to go any more in depth in terms of what the process is. I guess the real question is, for the group, how do you see this being done within your business? I mean, obviously, number one, really identifying, I think, as a group, what are the strategies that usually stall after the plan is? Is it in the marketing side? Is it the finance side? Is it in the sales side? Where do you find most of the time that you get a lot of pushback or stall in the actual execution, right? And how do you find people that are not in your lane? All of us, like I said, all of us come from a specific background of expertise. Some of us are in finance, some of us are in sales, some of us are in operations. So if you've spent 20 years, 30 years in a specific lane, how do you find the appropriate people outside of your lane, right? George, we've discussed this 100 times on the calls, right? How do you feel comfortable bringing someone else into the relationship?
Yeah.
Right.
I just had this conversation with an advisor yesterday.
Right. Yeah. If I want to work with Mitch, how much lane do I have to have or tread do I have to have with Mitch over 6 months to a year before I feel comfortable bring him into a client relationship? Right. So if you're able to define the specific function that they need to do or to produce, I think it becomes easier than if it becomes a giant relationship. In other words, if I have to bring in Mitch, to work with me on a client on everything, the risk is higher. If I bring him in only to, produce a 13 or to produce a 13-week cash flow, the risk becomes much more limited. I think the whole point over here is that really this is something that we should discuss. I mean, I will just say that internally in Aurora, we've actually developed our own little application internally where we actually take our entire network, everybody that I've ever met, everybody that I know, and I profile them, all their skill sets, all, the things that their geography, their skill sets, where they operate, how they operate, what they typically charge for their services. And as these situations come up, it becomes very easy for me to extract the information, who's the most appropriate person or the top 2 or 3 people, and quickly make an introduction to the client so that we don't lose the momentum. Because for me, the biggest challenge is you get started, the clients are excited, everybody's excited, and then you're now 90 days into the thing, and now you have to start to execute, and now it stalls. Why? Well, the financials, you don't have the right person do the financials. Okay, so now 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks passes by, and you get back to the client. Where are you at? Oh, we're still looking for somebody. Or you get the financials done, and the next section. So I don't tell you guys are all clearly aware of it. The real question is over here. The next step for this community is, if this concept makes sense, how do we work within the Growth Drive community to solve this problem or to bridge this gap? Because I think this is what's going to change the difference between you guys being another advisor with the super elite, the ones that can turn around to a client and say, as long as you are comfortable with the plan, we know we can execute and deliver the outcome. That's a very different proposition than just saying, I'm smart and this is a great system and you should join in the process. Here you can actually you can quantify the ability to deliver the outcome, which I think is far more significant.
And Joseph, I'm hearing two distinct things, both equally as valuable. One is collaboration, referral, confidence within the community. And where you began is, how do you build that execution trust with a leadership team when you have the CEO or owner's buy-in? That problem, because the owner can't work with us always to do it him or herself. There's a team behind that has to have the discipline of executing. And that buy-in process is what I was hearing you talk about as well earlier on. So we have two areas.
Yeah, the answer is, again, yes, you are correct, but I'll give you a specific example. Even if you've got someone again, I'll go back to finance or operation, doesn't really matter, and they have a limited skill set, there will be an objection if you come to them and say to them, I want to replace this person, because they don't have the ability to execute. It's easier to bring somebody else in, either on a fractional basis or as a mentor, or even on a project basis to execute something very narrow. And that's not going, the employee or the management is not going to reject it. They're going to see it as a relief, because they don't want to look stupid, but they also know they need the help in order to be able to execute.
But the distinction you were making earlier in that very moment is, a consultant tells the owner, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to replace that person. What you're saying as a trusted advisor, and the word trust, is that let's work together to help achieve what we've identified as being needed to achieve. I have some people who could really, that I trust, that could really help in this following way. And you're extending that trust from you to an outside person you can bring in and back into the organization as an advisor, not as a consultant telling them.
Yes, and even more, I would even say even more than that, it's ownership of the decision. You're facilitating his ability to execute. You're putting the decision in his hand. He now owns the decision, but he's owning a much smaller decision at each step, right? He's not owning the big project, right?
And what we do is, what in the end, our growth, when I'm listening carefully, and thank you for leading this, is establishing early on trust and confidence. And the language we choose, consultants use you language, we use we language, because we have a stake in the outcome, is we're building in small step-by-step ways trust and confidence. And you're sharing some of the methodology of doing that, or the thoughts around that. And one of the things I'm really focusing in on is understanding their belief patterns, because there are gaps. And that's why the leadership alignment report could identify some of those areas of alignment and gaps, not just in how they view the business, but in their beliefs and behaviors that drive the outcome of their business, and the disciplines they do or do not have in those behaviors. And I think that helps in conducting alignment reports and workshops, helps for us to identify those beliefs, behaviors, discipline consistencies and gaps to help us have more direction in how we, as trusted advisors in we language, work to get those small wins and move forward. And so I think a lot of what you're saying is really lined up to that, Joseph.
Agreed. And at this point, I think the idea really is, within the community is large enough today that there's enough levels of expertise. I would call it specific expertise that we could profile within the community, that as these things come up, you don't necessarily have to delegate an entire relationship to somebody, but you could delegate a specific task or specific project within the community. And the advantage is that everybody understands C3D. We all understand it. So if something comes up that needs to be done, it's not a surprise. It's not something that we don't understand. We have to go out and explain to an outside CPA or to an outside, ops guy or whatever it is, or someone in the banking industry. They already understand C3D. So you're saying this is a project that needs to be done. This is a client. You can hand them the report. They'll read it in 5 minutes. They'll understand the company. They'll understand what needs to be done, and they have the skill capacity to fix what needs to be fixed. And within the community, you have a much stronger ability to deliver the outcome.
And we have a number of examples of that in our community already to showcase as models for that.
100%, man. Joseph, thank you.
I find this really intriguing, Joseph, because this is what I'm doing right now. I'm not really worried. The clients will come. I'm not at that point. It's not that they're not important, but right now I'm building my trusted network. And this is very intriguing the way you've done it, because what I'm doing is I'm building like steps within my own process to vet them. Like my first step is we do an introduction. I meet them. I like them. Then I start meeting with them individually. Then I talk to them about their philosophy. I may give them an introductory referral, and I kind of rate them. I'm building more of a system, but did you respond to me quickly? Did you follow up with me after your meeting? Did you make the meeting? The very tactical things. But if they don't do that, unless there was a problem, I find that I don't even have that basic trust. And my partner from the company that I sold, he's a little bored, so he's building this AI CRM tool. So I told him, stop wasting your time and help me do this. And we're actually, because he doesn't know what he's doing with his time, but we're building a tool which is really, it's a referral connection tool that's using the power of AI to find those connections that are there. And what you've intrigued me is I could almost build like a rating or a vetting system into that tool. It's not that the AI would do it, but I really like this. This has sparked something that I hadn't considered. But
we already do what you suggest. We already have that application built out. It was built out a couple of years ago. There's a little bit of AI. It's just really the primary step is really just the matching algorithm, how to be able to extract the data that is just there from your experience. And then based on historical outcomes, right, you can kind of layer the AI on top of it to give it a little bit of flavor and color of where the, more like chemistry and these kind of things would be a better match. But it doesn't need to be complicated. I think it's a simple profile that you're capturing from each person in your network. And as opportunities come up, you're able to enter what the issues that needs to be resolved, and it should be able to pull up, the top 2, 3, or 4 people that fit. I think it would be a huge help within this community. Huge.
Love it. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Tim, from your book and your body of work on change management, because a lot of this is about change management and behavior change management. What are some of the lessons that we could apply to this conversation?
Sure. Well, first of all, Joseph, this is brilliant. I appreciate the fact that you're sharing it with the group, because it's visualizing something that we all know exists and giving us some tangible stepping stones to follow. So thank you for that. Larry, to your question, one of the things that's going in my head right now is that people support what they help to create. And so the whole growth drive process involves the senior leadership team almost from the start, right after Clarity 1, when you do the alignment report, and then the Clarity 2 and the deep dive, that's all team involved. We share that with the owners in the proposal process, that here's what we do, here's how we can help you, here's how we can help make sure that you can implement. we address the what I would call the gap between strategy and execution. It's the engagement gap is what we call it. And we build engagement along the way. We share with the owner that this strategic plan, this strategic growth plan isn't going to be worth a thing if we don't actually implement it. Here's how we help to ensure that that happens. And then what Joseph's inspired me to do from watching this is maybe to use something similar to this, is literally show the owner, here's how this will succeed. Here's where it could fail if we don't do this. We're going to get pushback. There's going to be gaps, etc. But the big lesson, Larry, or the big point to your question is that people support what they help to create. And so by getting them involved in the process, confirming their buy-in, letting them know that we're likely to hit some potholes along the way, but we're determined to implement this plan is the way to get that change done.
What I love about what Joseph has shared, Tim, man, money. What I love about what Joseph has shared, what Tim, you've just reinforced, and what we're all discussing on this call is that ultimately it's the CEO's ride, right? It's your client's ride. It's like, hey, man, this is for your benefit. You came to me and said you had this problem. I'm shorthanding it, but you said that you had the problem. We clearly have a gap between what we want to get done and what we're capable of doing. Do you want me to help you fill that gap? And if you want to help me, here are 3 people who are vetted, ready to go. If you have someone you love, let's use them. Because the goal is increasing strategic capacity. The goal is delivering the client win. So I'll stop there. But Tim, man, Joseph, that was magic. Thank you.
My pleasure. I think if it makes sense, you might want to allocate some time, during the summit to be able to formalize in a better way. And a simple way of putting it is, if I've got someone that needs, some financial to get done, am I going to have an issue, giving Mike DeCiato a phone call, say, listen, this is a project that needs to be done. Are you willing to, to jump in and participate? If I, need something evaluation, go to Ed and say, Ed, I need a proper evaluation done for X. Can you jump in? I think the comfort level to bring other people into the process within the community is going to skyrocket. And as much as I love Ed, I'm just, not going to make Ed a part of my company and make him permanent of my group, because I want, my own autonomy and control. But I definitely, would like to collaborate on certain projects and certain opportunities within the community. And I think that's, if the community feels that that's a need, then I would suggest that this becomes potentially an element or a focus within the summit or even post summit.
Heck yes. What thoughts, gentlemen? We don't have a single gentleman. Thoughts? Ed, you're muted, my man. Ed, you're still muted.
I know. One of the things that I'm thinking of is we introduce ourselves and we get to know our names, but I don't know that really people understand the strength of some of the backgrounds that we have, which we don't really share. And I think, as you talked about several months ago, I don't remember when, about having a master list for referral purposes, I think we need to have that database created in a format that would enable the members to be able to jump in and see the people that have been doing work and have extensive background in dealing with certain functional areas. And Joseph, mentioned my valuation, but there in service companies, I've done a lot of work in the service consulting world, but I don't happen to share that because we haven't had a reason to do that. And Larry, in what he's doing, he's got a different marketing twist, etc. But everybody doesn't know what Larry's real strengths are. Joseph, as you mentioned, because we talk to each other and meet at conferences and communicate outside of these morning gatherings, we get to know the people and what they are involved with and capability-wise. And I think we need to get some kind of collective form put together that would provide some of that in a synoptic basis, so you could even start asking the right questions to see if that personality is going to fit with the project you may help on.
Well, and it's interesting, Ed, that's a great point because, if you guys think about your bios, and I know that this is happening, I know who here has gotten work or consulted with someone else in the community because of what's in their bio. And it's most or all of us, right? Your bio in the community is critically important. What Joseph is advocating, if I understand it correctly, is a more muscular, and I love it. Duly noted. Actually, duly noted.
I would even say to expand the community, each of us have a Rolodex. We all have Rolodexes, and we have, let's call it our top tier people that we would go to for specific activities. This would be a good way to, number one, increase the number of growth drivers in the community by introducing them into the larger collective community, people that are not necessarily in it now, but at the same time, also increase the quality of the ability to execute in the various circumstances. Like Ed, you're saying, there's, you could have, for example, B2B services. You might have someone in manufacturing, right? Each one of these might have a more specialized need of area of expertise. I think collectively within the community, we have enough reach to be able to pretty much address almost anything that really comes across. And I think, again, that my point was, yes, it's nice for me to be able to go up on the member looking circle and find out that, Ed, you have an expertise in valuation. But I think it gets a little bit more when you have multiple things that need to be done. You really don't want to spend 2 hours or 3 hours looking. You want to be able to have the ability to kind of toss in a list of things that need to get done and have something spit out a list of potential people that might be able to help you resolve the problem. That was kind of the focus.
100%, Joseph. And Circle has just introduced some AI that would be, I think, we'll test it, right? But would be helpful in that vein. We need to, hammer it into shape, but would be helpful.
Yeah, I think you're going to need a separate application for that, George, within Growth Drive. Circle is not going to help. We've tried to make it work. Circle is not, if you're not an admin, Circle makes it very difficult for you to get deeper access into the information that's on the database. Even in terms of searching the conversations, it's hard for me to look up and say, oh, did Ed ever mention, or who mentioned valuation? Right? It'll pull up a word, but it makes it very difficult to be able to clean that data up. So you'll need to do it separately. I'm just telling you from experience.
Heard. Yeah, heard 100%, Joseph. Thank you.
We build this right into our website. So we do exactly what Joseph was talking about a couple of weeks ago. A new client they're getting ready for an accelerated exit, and I asked them if their wealth advisor was familiar with managing the magnitude of a business exit, size of theirs. And they weren't sure. They wanted to check it out, and they came back and said, not really. We've got 2 different firms locally that really do a great job with that. And if I can share my screen for a second, I mean, this doesn't surprise people when we offer these references, but this is a display from the about page of our website, and it just shows that, we put on here, we're proud of this, that we've got a network of expertise. And many of these stations that we put in this diagram represent you all, whether somebody needs help with business valuation, even with leadership development. That's something Tommy and I do, but it's not something that we want to do going forward because our time is better spent helping be the growth advisor for their company. So we've got expertise for that as well. So we show them we've got this. We explain that it takes a village to help grow the company, like Joseph was talking about. And we even refer people to this, that part of the value of coming on board with us is that we've got access to people, and we do exactly what Joseph said, that we can give you 3 names, 2 names, you talk with them, see who fits best for you. If it's none of them, that's terrific. But it at least tees up the fact that we've got that reservoir of talent.
Love it, man, Tim. Thank you. Hey guys, would it be okay with you guys if we use the last 15 minutes? I think there's a lot of input pent up here. If we use the last, did we lose Newtbar? Did we use the last 15 minutes to do key takeaways? Would that be cool? Because we have a good group this morning, and I think if we each did 2 minutes, we'd chew through that 15 minutes. Is that cool?
Sure.
Awesome. Well, Stephen, listen, we need to talk, my friend. Stephen, do you have a sec to give your key takeaway? I'd love to start, turn this ship around. Let's start with Yeah. Yes.
Sure. I'm here. Sorry, I literally wanted to hop in because these discussions are always so valuable. And even though I am buried, I absolutely wanted to be here. So one of the things that I'm actually realizing in my own business as well, and it's very much aligned with what is being discussed here. I'm finding that I'm more a subject matter expert than I was a general contractor. Like, yes, we can come in and we can do the diagnostic and we can give the whole view of the business and know what needs to be done. But my skill set is very pointed. And I'm finding that it's a lot more valuable being very pointed, because that way there is something very specific that I can do that maybe not everyone else can do, because everyone can diagnose, but to this point, maybe I'm not necessarily best situated in a place where I'm drawing in, those subject matter experts as much as being the subject matter expert for that very specific need. Especially in starting my own business. That is, it's the riches are in the niches, right? Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
So being the general contractor is not necessarily as valuable. So having that skill set and especially putting it together to where you can bridge from knowing what is needed to bringing in those trusted advisors and getting the buy-in from the leadership team to actually put that into action. This is the discussion that needs to be happening, because I think this is what's going to evolve what we are doing.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you, Stephen. Who are you going to toss it to?
You know what? I'm going to toss it to Eric.
Joseph, I really appreciate this conversation. I've been harping on this for the last 10 years. I had a person on my team that I said, look, we're general contractors. We bring all this. And he said, Eric, you do finance and I do sales. Why do we think we can do the rest of it? and then I've had other people say, I'm a sales consultant. I have a phone full of people I know, so I could be a general consultant, a general contractor. And I've said a bunch of times, I don't think I'd pick my general contractor because they have a lot of contacts. I think I'd pick my general contractor for other reasons. I want them to understand the building code and the building process really, really well. They got to be really intimately knowledgeable with the whole process. They can't just be an expert at painting or at framing. They got to understand the whole process and how does it sequence. I want them to have vetted subs, not just a bunch of names of people they know, right? I want them to have really strong project management skills that they can actually manage complex projects. And I certainly want them to have a history of being, making budget and being on time, right? So just because you have a phone full of people doesn't make you a general contractor. You got to have a bunch of other skills. And so, Joseph, I really appreciate that you are thoughtful about how you are talking. I know you are focused on the sub part of it for a lot, but there's a whole process to being a general contractor. And a lot of our community comes from people who've had, to your point that you said earlier, very specific technical jobs. And so they want to jump into that general contractor seat and they like the look of that, but they don't necessarily bring everything they need to do that. And they need to be thoughtful about whether they can really, and Stephen, I appreciate your comments. Is everybody cut out to be a general contractor? I don't know if they are, right? We need subcontractors who are experts just as much as we need great general contractors.
Awesome, Eric. Agreed. Who are you going to toss it to?
I got to go to Tip.
Tip Quilter.
So two things. Number one is when I start any engagement, one of the things that I emphasize up front, and it really speaks to what Joseph's, where he started, is that this is a change initiative. And, human beings love change, just love it, love it, love it. And the more you can emphasize that at the front end, the more the resistance seems more natural and can be calculated into the overall trajectory and engagement. So the other thing is that this addresses
the practitioner's temptation to control. I don't need to be vertically integrated to be effective, and chemistry is a real thing. This is about mitigating risk and building trust and legitimacy with the client. And it's also a marketing function to build COIs who are tangential partners, air quotes, partners in the overall presentation of my firm, air quotes, firm. So I think that this comes at a really good time. So thank you, Joseph. I'll toss it to Larry.
Well, I appreciate the whole conversation. And I think this is, Joseph, to your point, this is an example of how you get community referral. Getting to know each other in these conversations and getting to know each other's work requires also then the one-to-one follow-up. Like some of us have never really had a one-to-one. Others have had many one-to-ones. And I find from all these type of interactions, it's important follow-up. Tim and I are going to be speaking when this call is over. Steve, we've had. John, we've had one-to-ones. Mitch, so there's an opportunity for us through these initiatives, not just the summit, to get to know each other better in our work and build that trust and ability to better have confidence in our collaboration. So I appreciate that. And everyone at the summit, I put it in the chat, we're going to cover aspects of this in the summit. And a couple of you are going to be asked to be on a panel this week to be a part of that. And some of that is change management. How do we get our clients buy-in, and not just ownership, but senior leadership to buy in to change in ways that are intellectually make sense, but how does it make sense to everybody, both on the emotional and what's in it for them? So thank you, Joseph, for leading. I'll pass it to Mitch.
Larry, this was a really interesting turn of the conversation. So I appreciate your time and your sharing that, Joseph. It made me think of things to help continue to add to my own personal process with my business. It's kind of cool to have this. I just finished on the plane last night, my last number 16 for the growth driver of the session. So I'm about ready to take the test, maybe even today. Awesome. See if I can get certified. So I guess this is, and Larry, it's very cool to see you. You spoke a lot in the ones that I saw recently. So seeing you live is more exciting than in the canned ones, you and Eric. And yes, so I appreciate it. And I appreciate already since the first time meeting everybody at EPI's at the EPI conference. You know, Eric has been there a few times that I've asked, anytime I've asked, and George, and being able to talk to everybody, and Stephen and I met in person. So it's been good. It's been good, and Ed and I've talked. So I appreciate the community and the approach, and having these kinds of discussions every week. I guess eating your own cooking, doing our own weekly meeting, which I just, I'm quite an expert now because I'm only 3 days removed from all the technical aspects of it. It was a good time when I was on the West Coast, waking up early and doing that before everybody woke up to get through those. So those are my takeaways.
Awesome, Mitch. Thank you.
And I'll throw it to, I guess I'll go to Ed.
Thank you, Mitch. I think one of the things that Joseph said very meaningfully, and that is that don't believe that you have to be the best general contractor in the world. There are times when you get an engagement opportunity, and it may start off that you think you're going to be the general contractor when maybe your specialty becomes more important, and you've got to abdicate that general contractor role to function on your specialty. Don't be afraid to say, let's start with the first small step, and then let's go back and reflect on what we've done to see if that is really the direction that you as the business owner really want to see happen. Because a lot of times business owners, what they articulate they want help with is not really the issue. And once you're in there working with them, you then find enlightenment because you have to answer questions and look at different issues, and you suddenly see that, oh, what they asked about is not really what they need help with. What they really need help with is blank, whatever it's going to be. And that's not in my wheelhouse. And I need to get out of my working relationship, and I need to get them that specific type of support person.
Love that, Ed. I call it sympathetic pain. Yeah, I love it.
I like, because when I explain that it's not in my wheelhouse and I need to get somebody that's better at it than me, they help to understand that I'm concerned with them. I'm not worried about my financial situation. I'm concerned with them and their business and how it's going to perform.
Delivering client wins. Heck yes.
I'll pass it along to Joseph because he set such a good tone for today's meeting.
Okay. There's an important element when you engage with a client. Many of us know the clients that we deal with. Very often we don't. Trust is a big issue, and it takes time for them to learn more about you and what they can and can't do and what they can and can't trust. To a large extent, when you're making it clear that you're there for the diagnostic portion, which is really hard to argue with. I mean, most of them will look at the report that we produce and say, yes, it makes sense. It's logical, maybe not from the valuation side, but they understand more or less, the report that you're presenting. The concern that always is about control. Their fear is losing control. So the more you can structure the work that you do to lower that bar for them to engage and work with you and trust and be able to bring the resources necessary, the greater the likelihood of success. And over time, they'll give you more and more control because they'll trust you more. They'll see you executing. So I think the entire process is, how do we internally get the trust? Because we also want to control the relationship. I think the answer to that is the way we bring that down from the client. Our relationship with the client is about trust and control. I think the relationship that we work with people within our network is also trust and control. And we do that by bringing the project down to smaller tasks and smaller asks from the people around us. And we can bridge the two of them really by allowing the person that we're bringing into the relationship with a small task to be the decision of the owner. And we just become a facilitator of the process. And
Heck yes.
I think that's really the takeaway.
Love it, Joseph. Thank you.
Good points.
Yeah.
I'll pass it off to Paul, who's been absolutely quiet today.
Thank you, Joseph. The two times that you've had some materials to present have created the most discussion in a couple of years on this thing. So thank you for throwing that out there. What you just said versus what Ed just said kind of conflicted to me, because you used trust and control, and Ed said basically, I'm interested in the client, not control. So just an observation there. From a brand perspective for Growth Drive, the first thing that jumped out at me is we start out with strategic capacity and diagnosing strategic capacity, but then you use the word they don't have the capacity. And so I'm not sure if we want to use the same term. Maybe capability would be better or something for that. The idea that you have access to people, absolutely. We all have struggled. We've talked over the last couple of years about how do we find clients. Well, there's hardly any of us in this community are true salespeople. And so our clients often need a good salesperson. They don't know how to hire a salesperson. So there's going to be a need to go outside the Growth Drive community, I think, in order to get some of the resources that a client is going to need. Great discussion. Thank you. And there's only one person left, and that's our lawyer friend, which is unusual in our community, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Carter. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Lot of nuggets in this one, as always. the three takeaways for me that I keep kind of vacillating and coming back to is you got to know yourself, right? First and foremost. And I use myself as an example, right? Yeah. I was that lawyer guy for years. And as my practice changed and shifted, I have to still stay anchored and remember, who am I? You know, what are my strengths, and what are the things I'm not capable or not that good at? So, and that ties into what Ed was saying, or somebody was saying about not being married to the outcome, right? We have to be versatile and flexible in our engagements and with our advisor relationships so that our role might change. We have to be okay with that. So those are the two big takeaways. And the other thing that stood out to me that Stephen talked about, which is, and it kind of ties into it, is, you know, we might find as we go down our career path, and none of us are spring chickens, but even as we're going through our career path of life, that our role may change, right? We might find that there's a better sweet spot somewhere for us than what we thought. So this has been real enlightening for me. I didn't know what I was going to get this morning. We never do, right? It's a great box of chocolates, but this has been real good for me. I appreciate it. And I think Tim, have you spoke? Are you the last one on deck, or was I the last one?
Spoke earlier, but I would just reinforce it. Thank you, Joseph. We've always spoken about this. We've talked with the owners about the transition from planning to execution. And you just set a great example of something to show rather than tell, or show along with tell, where we can literally describe this execution gap and what we're likely to, this is the chasm we've got to cross. Here's how we're going to get from here to there. So I really appreciate the clarity and the visuals that you provided here. Is going to be very useful. Thank you.
Hey, George, before we break, I know we're at time. I just wanted to offer, I know you, I don't remember who said it about the sales, but even though I've chosen to be more of a general contractor and the quarterback, I definitely have sales expertise. So if I can offer that to the group, even about guidance, or, you know, I could be the subject matter expert on the sales area. Did it for about 25 years. So happy to help if that's a need and a gap in the organization. Even though I'm not doing it directly, I do have contacts in there as well that aren't in growth drive, but probably should be. Could be a good asset here. So maybe we'll get another client for George as well there.
Awesome, Mitch. Thank you. Thank you all, guys. I know we're 2 minutes over. I have some key takeaways, and that is, Joseph, first of all, thank you. Always fantastic when you share more deeply. So really appreciate it. Guys, I have the summit agenda up over here. Our working session that Larry and I use and Andy use behind the scenes. I'm just going to walk through the 3 panels. The first panel is an interactive panel on which some of you will be asked to serve client discovery that facilitates successful execution. Does that tie into this conversation? Heck yes. The second panel, and then we're going to workshop that. The second panel on Tuesday morning is the art of the executable plan, right? Does that sound familiar with today's conversation? Heck yes, it does. And then we're going to follow that up with 3 table exercises about designing, about engineering execution success, and about thinking about execution from the very beginning. Again, you know, hugely, these 2 topics, what we discussed today, they're so relevant. They're in the same pot. And then on Wednesday morning, we're going to have a third interactive panel that is the science and art of leading change. And in each of these panels, there's going to be you guys, right? It's not me, it's not Larry, not Andy on these panels. It's you sharing. And we call them interactive panels because in the room, people will be able to submit questions that the facilitator will then curate for the group. So fantastic conversation. Thanks for staying on for a few extra minutes, guys. I'm super grateful to each and all of you. And what a great community you're building, right? So thank you. And with that, any closing comments, questions, anything I can help with? What a great discussion, guys. Thank you. I'll see you next Tuesday. And anything I can do for you this week, you know how to reach me. Let me know. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Have a great week, guys.
Tim, give me a minute. Tim. Yep.